All right. Roman numeral 5 is where we're at, page 17. And this is called the feminine. This is going to be the third characteristic of epic, feminine. To discern most clearly the nature of the third feature of the epic cosmos, highlight this, the masculine-feminine conjunctio. Stop. One can turn to an epic only recently known in the literary world. The Lay of Igor's campaign, discovered as were Gilgamesh and Beowulf in the late 18th century, but known to the literary world only in the 19th, and coming to the attention of critics in the 20th. The Igor epic, though brief, is no heroic lay or gesta, as it has sometimes been called, but a poetic account of the entire cosmos coming into being. It is, in short, an epic by virtue of giving form to the myth of a people, and by placing that myth within a larger myth, a moral universe. And, as in all genres, since an ideal form is the basis for establishing the kind of grouping, a newly discovered epic that fits into the assembly may not only reaffirm the shared elements of the group, but bring to the foreground and thus highlight aspects previously unnoticed. Highlight this. In this instance, the chief feature that illumines the world shared by other epics is the affinity of the feminine with the earth and the power of the feminine to affect the course of action. Stop. Okay, so the feminine is the Mother Earth because she is the womb of the world. Well, just like girls give birth, yes, Brianna, very good. Just like women are the only ones who can give birth because they are the only ones who have a womb. So it's shaped like this, like a ship, right? I'm not going to try and get like graphic with you, but this is how it is explained in the Greek. The feminine is a womb. The masculine is a mast. Okay? The mast moves the boat. The feminine is the boat. Without the masculine, the boat just sits there and doesn't go anywhere. So then that means society doesn't go anywhere. Without the feminine, the masculine mast just sinks to the bottom of the ocean. So they need each other and they have to balance. If the mast is not small enough, is too small for the boat, then it won't propel it. It'll move too slow. If the mast is too big for the boat, then it'll drown the boat. It'll push the boat down. So they have to match. Like it says, the masculine feminine conjunctio. They have to match. Just like you've seen the yin and the yang, I'm sure, right? The white and the black, they match, and there's a black inside the white and a white inside the black. So they have to have that, what we call in literature epic balance. But in this case, Dr. Cowan is talking about the feminine, but I was just trying to explain the masculine-feminine balance. The Igor poet had the same problem as Beowulf poet 4 centuries earlier, to a declining paganism through Christian eyes without deprecating its genuine virtues, indeed enhancing, top of 18, and ennobling its qualities, so they might be taken into the new order without loss. These poets, therefore, situate their allegiance in the past, though their imaginations are Christian, and their aspirations are for a transformed order yet to come. Okay, so let's break that down. So you have the poets. Remember, epic poets can see all of space and time. So that means that they can look back in the past and see maybe the pagan past of their people. So pagan means before Christianity or before the Abrahamic religions. Then you have Christianity in the present time. That's where it says their imaginations are Christian. And then their aspirations to a future that they don't know about. Will it be Christian? Will it be godless? What will it be? Hence, at a time of profound cultural shift, the Igor epic apprehends the mysterious entity that has been variously called the idea or the soul of Russia. So this is a Russian epic. Highlight this. If we read epic poems with attentiveness, so if we pay attention to them, putting aside preconceived ideas about the dominance of patriarchal virtues, we see in them something of a palimpsest. I don't know what that word means. I'll have to look it up. Indicating that nations are not only twice but thrice born. stop. In the familiar Greek accounting, before the accession of the Olympians, the Titans ruled, and before them, Gaia and Uranus. We tend to think those ancestral parents safely done away with and forgotten. Might they not, however, in the aggregate of time, aggregate means the whole of time, still be present to us analogically, so analogically would be like as examples or as metaphors. What you doing there with your fish, Ren? Could we possibly think that that epics depict the human struggle to retain all three sets of gods, all three stages of human culture? So remember, the three stages are the past, the present, and the future. Highlight this. Certainly, we see that the first two Western epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, stand at a midpoint between the warrior code and the coming of the polis, which is the city ruled by reason and justice. Yet is there not underneath all the masculine furor about honor, a deeper and more pervasive presence? In the stirring accounts of heroes, one senses the subliminal presence of a more ancient feminine culture, perhaps stemming from the old religion, the matriarchal worship of the great goddess. Stop. All right, so we live in a patriarchal culture, right, where it's very masculine. It's very much about going and getting and moving fast and not stopping to be attentive and to pay attention and to slow down. But before we lived in a patriarchal culture, we had a matriarchal culture where it was the Mother Earth. That's what Gaia is. Gaia is the earth that was, I guess you could say, in power. But I hate to use the word power because the feminine is not so much associated with power as the masculine. So there's what she's saying here is there's not a latent, not a dormant, a subliminal, so like an under the surface presence of the feminine, of Mother Earth basically crying out. One thinks of the empathy of Thetis. Okay, so Thetis is the goddess mother of Achilles, who comes immediately in response to her son's grief, the independence of Hera, enlisting Athena to fight at her side. So what she's doing here is giving examples of women, strong women. The stature of Andromache and Hecuba, the archetypal beauty of Helen, and of course there is the wide-seeing Periphronos, authority of Penelope. Penelope is the wife of Odysseus. The Odyssey is full of women who seem to rule the universe and govern the conditions under which the hero returns. Certainly one finds traces of this divine feminine presence in Russian epic literature. Fedotov has spoken of the cult of the earth among the ancient Russians, linking it with the most secret and deep religious feeling of the folk. He goes on to say, top of 19, at every step in studying Russian popular religion, one meets the constant longing for a great divine female power. Is it too daring to hypothesize on the basis of this religious propensity the scattered elements of the cult of the great goddess who once reigned upon the immense Russian plains? In the Igor poem, in contrast with Western epics, Western, it means Greek and Roman, and us. Though the warrior code is strong, the deep and abiding devotion to the Russian land, to nature, and to its elements. Igor's campaign is undertaken despite the lack of solidarity among the Russian princes, who should be in one accord in defense of the motherland. And though the raid is unsuccessful, it points toward a future when Russian land will be unified. So I heard this thing on the news the other day that all of the smaller countries that have female leaders are now over the coronavirus. It's the bigger countries with male leaders that are still fighting it. My literary brain says that's because women slow down and think things through before they move on. The masculine, the mass, is going too fast, and it just wants to get things done. Let's get over it as fast as we can. these female-led countries are like, no, let's just slow down a little bit. That's my literary take on that. Okay, I'm gonna skip to page. There's just a lot here. There's a lot of name dropping and a lot that will just be super confusing. And I personally don't have any of it highlighted, so. All right, if you'll go to page 21. I'm just gonna finish from the middle of 21 through the end of to the end of Roman numeral 5, and that'll get us to the end of the period. All right, so 21, right after the quote in the middle of the page, the paragraph starting, it is not too inconceivable. You see where I'm at? Tien, thank you. You're the only one I can see right now with your video on. Highlight this. It is not too inconceivable then to maintain that hidden within the masculine action of the epic structure are elements of the ancient goddess, great goddess, the mediatrix of grace, the intercessor, and that her version of history offsets and alters the grim march of events. It is in answer to her reproaches and commands that the hero finds his path. Stop. As the Igor poet tells us, God shows Prince Igor the way. The way is the way of hope and grace, out of his seeming hopelessness and despair. In his difficult escape, nature is friendly to him. So nature, Mother Earth, aiding him, hiding him, lending him its powers, the river cradling him, the usually noisy birds falling silent with only the woodpeckers, with their tapping showing the way to the river. Highlight this. Although it is the masculine prowess and thymos that undertakes the heroic task, it is with the help of the feminine wisdom and courage that it is accomplished. These powers work together in the epic in a way not depicted in other genres. Stop. In tragedy, for instance, I'm on the top of 22, the masculine protagonist is in revolt against the mothers. It is this guilt that haunts him in his over-rational hubris. In contrast to the victimization of women in tragedy, both comedy and lyric portray the feminine aspects of the psyche as dominant. Beatrice and Shulamite, for instance, represent the recognized right order of being in the Divine Comedy. And the Song of Songs and in John Donne's Twickenham Garden, the lover is compelled to admit ruefully that her truth kills me. Highlight this. In epic, on the contrary, the forces are balanced. For every towering male figure, there exists a female fully as imposing. Eve, Helen, Penelope, Sarah, Ishtar, Dido, Beatrice, Yaroslavna, Iangura, Setha. The Moses epic is a story framed by the secret purposes of the feminine. Indeed, throughout the Old Testament, as persons of recognized power, women have their own way of knowing. The outcome of history bears its mark on their efficacy, which means their effectiveness. Stop. It is perhaps surprising to find that epic gives us our best portrayals of marriage as a powerful institution. The biblical Adam and Eve in their original unity, like Zeus and Hera in their hieros gamos, set the pattern for the regenerative power of the wedded pair. The image found again in Abraham and Sarah, Odysseus, Penelope, Aeneas, Lavinia, Milton's Adam and Eve, among others, including the great ocean in Moby Dick and the wilderness in Go Down Moses. Highlight this. The epic assumes that the sacred marriage of the two equal and complementary powers is possible, and that in the wedding, the whole world is renewed. Stop. Wow. Sounds like to renew our world, we have to find a masculine and a feminine balance. Brianna, people, because girls are cool. Well, yeah, and we also hold the world. Like, literally, that is what the chalice, this is what this represents, is the holding, okay? Women hold the world and men move the world. But if there's not a balance, then you can see where that can all go wrong. Okay, so each has to play a 50% part. And if there's an imbalance, something's gonna go wrong. And if you look at various times in history, you can see the imbalances. And because men are stronger and the movers, they tend to be the ones doing the. I say men, I mean the masculine, because there's feminine. There's a lot of women who are also very powerful figures. Okay. Yeah, Tian, you're right. Okay, so we're gonna stop there for today.